The posterior pituitary, or neurohypophysis, is the posterior lobe of the pituitary gland which is part of the endocrine system. The posterior pituitary is not glandular as is the anterior pituitary. Instead, it is largely a collection of axonal projections from the hypothalamus that terminate behind the anterior pituitary, and serve as a site for the secretion of neurohypophyseal hormones, oxytocin and vasopressin, directly into the blood. The hypothalamic neurohypophyseal system is composed of the hypothalamus, the paraventricular nucleus and supraoptic nucleus, posterior pituitary, and these axonal projections. Structure. The posterior pituitary consists mainly of neuronal projections, axons, of magnocellular neurosecretory cells extending from the supraoptic and paraventricular nuclei of the hypothalamus. These axons store and release neurohypophyseal hormones oxytocin and vasopressin into the neurohypophyseal capillaries. From there they get into the systemic circulation, and partly back into the hypophyseal portal system. In addition to axons, the posterior pituitary also contains pituocytes, specialized glial cells resembling astrocytes assisting in the storage and release of the hormones. Classification of the posterior pituitary varies, but most sources include the two regions below. Pars nervosa. Also called the neural lobe or posterior lobe, this region constitutes the majority of the posterior pituitary and is the storage site of oxytocin and vasopressin. Sometimes, incorrectly, considered synonymous with the posterior pituitary, the pars nervosa includes herring bodies and pituocytes. Infundibular stalk. Also known as the infundibulum or pituitary stalk, the infundibular stalk bridges the hypothalamic and hypophyseal systems. The median eminence is only occasionally included as part of the posterior pituitary. Other sources specifically exclude it from the pituitary. A few sources include the pars intermedia as part of the posterior lobe, but this is a minority view. It is based upon the gross anatomical separation of the posterior and anterior pituitary along the cystic remnants of Rathke's pouch, causing the pars intermedia to remain attached to the neurohypophysis. Function. Hormone secretion. Two hormones are classically considered as being related to the posterior pituitary, oxytocin and vasopressin. These hormones are created in the hypothalamus and released in the posterior pituitary. After creation, they are stored in neurosecretory vesicles regrouped into herring bodies before being secreted in the posterior pituitary via the bloodstream. Hormone other name symbol, S, main targets effects source. Oxytocin OT uterus, mammary glands uterine contractions, lactation supraoptic and paraventricular nuclei. Vasopressin antidiuretic hormone VP, AVP, ADH kidneys and arterioles stimulates water retention, raises blood pressure by contracting arterioles supraoptic and paraventricular nuclei. Clinical significance. Insufficient secretion of vasopressin underlies diabetes insipidus, a condition in which the body loses the capacity to concentrate urine. Affected individuals excrete as much as 20 liters of dilute urine per day. Oversecretion of vasopressin causes the syndrome of inappropriate antidiuretic hormone, SIAD.
Please subscribe and thanks for watching.